So this week in Corvette news, we see the first ZR1 on a dyno and see what production horsepower looks like, which is pretty freaking impressive. Also, the updated prices for the 2026 Corvette lineup has been announced, and as you can guess, everything got more expensive. And if you're watching this video on the day it airs, today is literally the last day to enter the channel giveaway, where we're giving away over $2,500 worth of prizes, a whole bunch of different items to win, multiple ways to enter, and I'll tell you all about that in today's video. So happy 4th of July, guys, and thanks for tuning into the channel where we talk Corvette news, do product review videos, how to install videos, and the occasional car drive and car show all around Corvettes. My name is Carlos, and if you like what you hear and you want to know when all these kinds of videos drop, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, join in on the community, and join in on the fun. Alrighty, on to our first bit of news that I came across. It is ZR1 news. And with the first set of this new variant C8 Corvette actually hitting customers' hands, we have the first actual dyno runs showing us what the power looks like, independent from what GM has just, been telling us. And this info comes from Kory and Rob and the Paragon Performance team, who actually were present for two owners who took delivery of their ZR1s at the National Corvette Museum, who then drove them down to the Paragon headquarters. It was a Hysteria blue ZR1 with a full ZTK option as well as a white ZR1 without it. In fact, I believe that ZR1 was VIN number 20 and is the first non-ZTK option ZR1, so kind of special in its own rights. Anyway, so these owners and the Paragon team took the ZR1s on a mini road trip back to their headquarters, where they did all the dyno runs as well as a few R&D fitments for various items that you can see a bit of like just aftermarket pieces being tried on, everything from e-Venturi intakes to exhaust to aftermarket carbon fiber bits. So pretty freaking cool. But it kind of does make sense, since you had assumed these cars would need to be broken in before they could do any kind of dyno run. So taking this small road trip over to Paragon would make sense. In any case, getting to the important part, the power numbers. How well did these ZR1s do? Well, putting it straightforward, they did pretty darn good, with the ZR1s putting down power figures of 1,028 brake wheel horsepower and 839 foot-pounds of torque. Now that is the STD version, which a couple people then asked, well, okay, what about the SAE version? And Paragon quickly responded that the SAE numbers showed 1,010 brake wheel horsepower and 825 foot-pounds of torque. So any way you slice it, still over 1,000 horsepower coming from that LT7 motor on the ZR1, which is absolutely insane. That the losses that you would expect from other systems like the transmission are pretty minimal to what you see getting translated from the wheels and onto the road. And on top of that, Kory and the Paragon team did shoot over a few other fun nuggets of info, showing us like that massive ZTK carbon fiber wing just weighs under 17 pounds. So it's fun to kind of have seen all that info, and just good to see these cars now getting into the hands of actual customers. So the next bit of news is kind of a big deal, and that is the pricing for the 2026 models has now been revealed by GM, and there's some price hikes as expected for each and every C8 Corvette variant. What's more interesting though is that it wasn't just an even spread of increased prices across the board, where Chevy just, upped the price, let's say like $2,000 for each variant. So that breaking down that price increase, it looks like the higher up C8 versions are having significantly higher price increases compared to like the Stingray and even the Eray for that matter. So the Stingray price goes up by $1,700 on all different trims, while the Eray price increased by about $1,700 across the board as well. So that's kind of good that at least the Stingray and Eray kept the same amount of increase. Where it starts to get really up there is when you start going into the Z06. The Z06 price increased by $5,600 across the board, and then the ZR1 increased by $7,100 across the board. So on top of all that, it looks like we are getting some price increases on the performance packages. Again, it's more leaning on the higher level packages that you're seeing these increases. So like for example, the Z51 performance package on the Stingray and the ZER for the Eray are staying the same, but the Z07 Ultimate Performance package is now up from $8,995 to $9,500. $4,400, so about a little bit over $500 going up. But then the ZTK Performance package on the ZR1 changes from like $1,500 to $4,395. It still requires the carbon fiber aero package, but it does come with the new J59 Alcon brakes package, which has that 10-piston front brake calipers and the 6-piston rear brake caliper systems, along with the 16.5-inch carbon ceramic rotors. Still, that's a pretty hefty jump, and it makes the final starting numbers across the board kind of look like this. And yeah, just going through it again, the Stingray LT1 Coupe starts at $70,000. That is the base price. That is as cheap as you're going to get. You have it also going up for the convertible version to $77,000 for that one LT. And then you're looking things at like the Eray. The Eray 1LZ starts off at $108,600, along with then the Coupe going for $115,000 or so. And then, like I said before, the Z06, it's starting to go really up there, where just getting a base Z06 is $117,000, over $117,000. And then if you wanted the convertible, just one LZ package is $124,000 for that 2026 lineup. And then you got the ZR1, which that was almost laughable at this point. It's $180,000 for that 1LZ coupe, and then the convertible $190,000, and then taking that top end trim, you're looking at for the convertible $201,000, over $200,000 for that one. And that's not going into any of the options, so pretty significant numbers. But I'll bet we are having a significant upgraded interior, especially, so I can kind of understand the reasoning behind this price increase, kind of ramping up the higher level versions to be a bit pricier than, let's say, the entry level Stingray. But it's still kind of crazy to think that an entry level C8 Corvette is now starting at $70K. But hey, that's the, the world we live in at this point. But I am curious though, if you think that the price reveal will make new buyers potentially look at older, maybe unpurchased lots of the 2025 or even 2024 Corvettes at a discounted rate instead of the 2026 version. I'm a bit on the fence myself if it would entice me enough to, want to get a 2026 version of my current Z06. I do really like that interior. I love the 3 screens especially, but I don't necessarily think it's worth it for me personally to shell that extra bit. But what do you guys think? Will you still plan to get a 2026? And if so, what kind? Like a Eray, Stingray, Z06, ZR1? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what you're planning. Okay, the last bit of news is channel news, and it's the next set of giveaways, which, today is the absolute last day to enter if you're watching this video on the day it posts on July 4th. And we still have only about 100 entries so far, so there's actually a really good chance to win something. But if you don't win, you can always use any of my discount codes for a lot of these different products. So you can save yourself a little bit of money, and all the links are in the description along with the discount codes that you would use. But for this giveaway, it's over $2,500 worth of prizes that we're giving away this time, all from sponsors of the channel, including Solar Performance and an 87mm throttle body kit for the C8 Z06 that's worth $700, a Diamond Protective coating kit, which is next gen beyond ceramic coating tech to protect your ride, any surface kit of your choice, which goes for about $80 to $100, Speedway Composites and their carbon fiber X brakes for your C8 Corvette, which goes for about $600, and then a special wind deflector also from Speedway Composites that goes for $400 as well. We also have an anti-glare protective film from Screen Protech that you can put on your C8 Corvette. It goes on the Nav Screen and the center screen, and that goes for $60 also. And then the last giveaway piece we added recently is from our longtime sponsor, Extreme Online Store, and it is carbon fiber side skirts that you can get for the C8 Z06 or Eray as full replacements of the carbon flash versions you usually see. We actually did a recent review of them and installed a pair on my Z06. I absolutely love them. They're really nice. So that piece, along with all these other items, are part of the giveaway, which basically ends today if you're watching it on the day it airs. And if you haven't entered already, it's super easy. The first way to enter, you can just type in the comments NuHorizon. That gets you one free entry into the giveaway. It is one per username and person for that initial entry. Again, if you've already submitted for that free entry in earlier videos, earlier news videos, you already locked in and you don't have to comment again unless you want to, but it's just not going to count for extra entries. But if you're wanting more entries and more chances to win though, because there are a lot of different prizes you could potentially win, I am making it that every $5 spent through either a special thanks donation or purchase of NuHorizon merch like my shirt or my hat, each $5 spent gets you an extra entry into the giveaway. We already have a few of you who have done just that, and you can see that in the updated spinner wheel. It could be that spending maybe $10, $15 can win you a piece that's worth $700 like the throttle body. So it all helps not only support the channel growing, but also future giveaways like this as well. And speaking of future giveaways, I'm already working on the next set of giveaways. So there's going to be even more to look forward to, even if you don't win this time around. But in the meantime, good luck to everyone who has entered. If you're not subscribed already, definitely invite you to subscribe to the channel. The next news video, I should be planning to reveal who are the winners. So, but in any case, have a good weekend. Take care, guys.